Yes, Ayah 177. The author says, starting with the saying of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ليس البر أن تولوا وجوهكم قبل المشرق والمغرب. It is not the righteousness that you people of the book turn your faces towards the east and the west, because your rules have been abrogated. ولكن البر من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر. Rather, the righteousness is the good doing of whoever believed in Allah and the last day. وَالْمَلَائِكَةِ وَالْكِتَابِ وَالنَّبِيِّينَ. And believed in the angels and the book and the prophets. And here, Al-Kitab, either it means heavenly books with an S, meaning the type, or it's the Quran in particular. Because the word kitab is a singular form. So apparently it's saying book. وَآتَ الْمَالَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ ذَوِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينَ وَابْنَ السَّبِيلِ وَالسَّائِلِينَ وَفِي الرِّقَابِ. And voluntarily gave away money while preferring it for himself, while loving the money. Or it means while loving the act of giving. Or it means while loving him, meaning Allah. Yani, وَآتَ الْمَالَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ. And he gave the money while loving it, or loving him. حُبِّهِ. So loving it, what's it? It could be the money itself. Then it means he would like to keep that money, but he fights his nafs and he gives the money to someone else. Or it is the act of giving. So he gives the money while he loves to do so. Or the pronoun is he. So then it means Allah. He gives the money while loving Allah. ذوي القربى واليتامى والمساكين وابن السبيل والسائلين وفي الرقاب. He gives that money to the near of kin, to the close relatives. Those are the best ones to give charity to. And the orphans, and the needy, and the stranded travelers, and the beggars, and the slaves and prisoners who need assistance purchasing their freedom. وَأَقَامَ الصَّلَاةَ وَآتَ الزَّكَاةَ. And so we're still talking about what's righteousness. Who's the righteous one? The righteous one is this one who believes in Allah and the last day and the angels and the books and the prophets. And he gives the money away while preferring it for himself to these people. And he is the one who observed the prayer. That means he prayed on time correctly. And he gave the zakah. وَالْمُوفُونَ بِعَهْدِهِمْ إِذَا عَاهَدُوا. And they are the fulfillers of their promise when they promise. When they promise Allah or the people, they fulfill their promise. وَالصَّابِرِينَ فِي الْبَأْسَاءِ. By the way, the Prophet ﷺ, he said that one of the traits of the hypocrite is that when he promises, he breaks his promise. And here, we're not talking about a hypocrite in his aqidah. There's two types of hypocrites. There's a hypocrite in his aqidah, he's a kafir, because he doesn't really believe. But there's a hypocrite who's possibly a Muslim, and his hypocrite is in his actions. It's not in his aqidah. So he's the one who, if he spoke, he lied. And if he gave a promise, he breaks his promise. And then there's a third thing, I don't remember it. وَالْمُوفُونَ بِعَهْدِهِمْ إِذَا عَاهَدُوا. And the fulfillers of their promise, when they promise. When they promise Allah or the people. وَالصَّابِرِينَ فِي الْبَأْسَاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ وَحِينَ الْبَأْسِ. And Allah praises those patient during dire poverty and affliction and during the heat of battle. أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ صَدَقُوا. Those described as mentioned are those who are honest in religion. Yani, they are the loyal ones. وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُتَّقُونَ. And those, they are the God-fearing. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم القصاص في القتلى. O those who have believed, prescribed for you are the rules of retaliation for those who were murdered. Prescribed for you means obligatory on you are the rules of retaliation for those who were murdered. الحر بالحر والعبد بالعبد والأنثى بالأنثى. The free for the free, and the slave for the slave, and the female for the female. There's something in here that's not clear for me though, so I need to ask. But what we learned in Shafi'i schools, I don't know what's across all the schools. What we learned in Shafi'i school is that if someone murders another, then he will be executed for murdering someone of his same social status. So that means if the free Muslim murders a free Muslim, then he'll be executed unless he gets pardoned. If a slave murders a slave, he'll be executed because they have the same social status. If the kafir murders the kafir, then he will be executed. They have the same social status. Like that.
So what's the status different?
Then he won't be executed. He'll still be punished, but he won't be executed.
Whether it's status up or down.
Yeah, that's what I know. That's what I know. For sure if it's down, but if it's up, I'll review, inshallah. So as for the way it's here in the ayah, the female for the female, I don't know how to explain that. فَمَنْ عُفِيَ لَهُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ شَيْءٍ. So whoever is pardoned, any amount of pardoning by his Muslim brother. So, مِنْ أَخِيهِ فَمَنْ عُفِيَ لَهُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ. Whoever is pardoned by his brother, this means his Muslim brother. So this is evidence then that murder is not kufr. If a Muslim murdered a Muslim, he's still a Muslim. And that's why Allah called him his brother. I mean, this is the heir of the murdered one. Akhihi, his brother, is the slain one's heir. And so by extension then, the major sin is not kufr. If a Muslim commits a major sin, he's still a Muslim, as long as he doesn't legalize the sin. فَمَنْ عُفِيَ لَهُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ شَيْءٌ فَاتِّبَاعٌ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. So whoever is pardoned, any amount of pardoning by his Muslim brother, that's the slain's heir who's pardoning him, then retaliation is dropped, and pursuit of the blood money should be done with civility. So this means that in the laws of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, it is permissible to absolve the murderer of the execution. That's in the hands of the heirs. They can say, we don't want him executed. We'll take the blood money, for example. That's not the law of the Torah. The law of the Torah was that the murderer is to be executed. That's it. This is one of the reasons why the laws of Muhammad are the pardoning laws and the easiest laws, because of such options. فَاتِّبَاعٌ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَأَدَاءٌ إِلَيْهِ بِإِحْسَانٍ. So then retaliation is dropped, and pursuit of the blood money should be done with civility. And payment to him, to the heir or heirs, should be made cordially, without procrastination or hostility. ذَلِكَ تَخْفِيفٌ مِّن رَّبِّكُمْ وَرَحْمَةٌ. That is alleviation from your Lord and mercy. What's that? Dhalik. That is that option to drop the execution for blood money or even for free.
Is there a set amount of blood money?
Yes. Yes. That's a whole chapter there. It depends on who you killed.
Gotcha.
Then the blood money, the description of the blood money differs. Because could be free male, free female, could be kafir, could be an unborn child. It then depends on the type of kafir also. Might be a person of the book or might be a majusi. And all of that's for murder. Then beyond that, there's still blood money for other types of assaults. And the scholars, they broke down all the different types of assaults from splitting the skull, denting the skull, breaking the jaw, knocking the tooth out, all types of things. Mutilation, clipping the lips, clipping the buttocks cheek, cutting off his butt cheek, all those things the scholars spoke about. So, that option to drop the execution for blood money or for free is alleviation from your Lord and mercy. فَمَنِ اعْتَدَى بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ. So whoever transgressed and killed other than the killer, or he killed the killer himself after that pardoning, فَلَهُ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. Then he shall have a type of agonizing torture. وَلَكُمْ فِي الْقِصَاصِ حَيَاةٌ يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. And in the sanctioning of retaliation, you believers have the preservation of the life of the one who would have been killed, as well as who would have killed him. Meaning, وَلَكُمْ فِي الْقِصَاصِ حَيَاةٌ. You believers have, in the laws of retaliation, life. Meaning, because that's a deterrent. Had it not been for that deterrent, then someone who had the idea of murdering another person, he would have murdered that one. So that would have been a dead one there. And then that murderer, he would have been executed. So that's another dead one there. So then you believers, because of these laws of execution and retaliation, there's preservation of life in that. The one who would have been a victim, his life is preserved because the killer's going to think twice. And then he's not going to be a killer, and then he's not going to be executed also. وَلَكُمْ فِي الْقِصَاصِ حَيَاةٌ يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. And in the sanctioning of retaliation, you believers have the preservation of the life of who would have been killed, as well as who would have killed him. Ya ulil albab, O those of intellect, O intellectuals, la'allakum tattaqun, so that you may beware of committing murder for fear of being executed. Here, la'allakum tattaqun, so that you have taqwa. So this verb, the verb of taqwa, one should not assume that everywhere it falls means fears Allah. Taqwa, it means, in a literal sense, avoiding something, bewaring of something. So when you take the tafsir, you need to be mindful. What's the thing that's the subject of this taqwa? I mean, what's the direct object for this verb? In this case, the tafsir of the what's being avoided is avoiding murder for fear of being executed. So someone might say it still goes back to fearing Allah. That's true, but there's more directly the tafsir is here. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you would beware, meaning so that you would avoid murder for fear of being executed.
Is this word qisas? I thought it was pronounced qisas, but qisas, does that word mean punishment like you got here, or does that word relates to almost like revenge, like getting back?
I know it to be a retaliation.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know it to mean like a revenge, like a vigilante, for example.
Right. That's not what I mean. Right. More like retaliation. Like you wronged me, and this is how we.
And a legal one.
Legal.
That's only how I know it.
That's how I know it too.
Yeah.
But it's pronounced Qisas.
Qisas, yeah, because that's the letter Sod. So the alif is going to be heavy. Sod. Qisas. Had it been a scene, then it would be Qisas. كتب عليكم إذا حضر أحدكم الموت. Prescribed for you when death approaches one of you. إن ترك خيرا. If he leaves behind wealth. The khayr here means wealth, the money. In different spots in the Quran means that also. So khayr, what might come to your mind first is goodness. What means here money. Just like in the other ayah. إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لِرَبِّهِ لَكَنُودٌ. Indeed, the human being is of his Lord certainly ungrateful. وَإِنَّهُ عَلَى ذَلِكَ لَشَهِيدٌ. And he is surely a witness to that. وَإِنَّهُ لِحُبِّ الْخَيْرِ لَشَدِيدٌ. And indeed, for the love of khayr, he is very intense. Khayr here is money. Means indeed the human being he is obsessed with money, infatuated with it. إِن تَرَكَ خَيْرًا الْوَصِيَّةُ. So prescribed for you when death approaches one of you, if he leaves behind wealth, is making a will. الْوَصِيَّةُ لِلْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. الْوَصِيَّةُ لِلْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ. A will for, so let one leave a will for the parents and the relatives. بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. With fairness, by not preferring the wealthy over the poor, nor by exceeding a third of one's assets. حَقًّا عَلَى الْمُتَّقِينَ. As a responsibility upon those who fear Allah. So this also needs some review and some study. Because the judgment in the Shafi'i school is that there's a difference between the wasiyah and the irth. Wasiyah is the will. The irth is the inheritance. So the irth, that's what the relatives are going to get. Whether you leave a will or you don't leave a will, they're going to get their inheritance. Unless you had debts that took up all your money. Yeah. And so the will, what's that? That's a gift after death for someone who's not an heir. That's a gift after death for someone who's not an heir. So if you wanted to leave money for someone that doesn't inherit from you, and that would include a bastard child for whoever is concerned about that, then you leave it in a will because he doesn't inherit. And as for the inheritance, you don't have to say anything there. The shares of the heirs are already determined by the religion.
So the flexibility that you would have is in the will.
Yes.
And of course, like you just mentioned, but that will should not include the relative that Allah already describes.
Correct. And there's a hadith, La wasiyata liwarith. There is no will for an heir. So we need to review this here. I don't recall if there's something abrogated here or not. And if it is, we didn't document it. So that would be known. فَمَنْ بَدَّلَهُ بَعْدَمَا سَمِعَهُ فَإِنَّمَا إِثْمُهُ عَلَى الَّذِينَ يُبَدِّلُونَهُ. Whoever then manipulates the will, whether a witness or an executor who manipulates it, after he has heard it, then the sin of it is only upon those who manipulate it, not the testator nor the recipient. Testator being the dead person who left the will in the first place. And the recipient is clear. Inna Allah sami'un alim. Surely Allah is hearer of who makes the will, knower of who executes it. And according to Nasafi, or knower of who manipulates it. فَمَنْ خَافَ مِنْ مُوصٍ جَنَفًا أَوْ إِثْمًا. But whoever fears from a testator an inclination from the truth, or he fears intentional sin from him, فَأَصْلَحَ بَيْنَهُمْ. Then he rectified between the parties by making them comply with the religion. فَلَا إِثْمَ عَلَيْهِ. Then there is no sin on him. إِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Surely Allah is forgiving of the testator who was tempted, and merciful to the rectifier. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم. All those who have believed, prescribed for you is fasting Ramadan, as fasting was prescribed for those nations before you. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. So that by fasting you may beware of disobedience, or so that you may achieve piety. However, Ramadan was reserved for the nation of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But it was reported that Isa fasted with his people 30 days. That's in the table. That's in the story of the table spread that came from the sky after they fasted 30 days. Also, it was reported that Musa fasted 30 days, and then he used the siwak. So then he was commanded to fast for 10 more. أياما معدودات. For a few counted days. Meaning a little bit of days, just a month. It's not a lot. Or it means it's an obligation timed to a known number of days. فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِّنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ. But whoever among you were ill or on a journey, then he shall make up the missed number of days on other days. Yani, he had an excuse to not fast. If he's sick in a way that fasting is harmful, then he has an excuse not to fast. There's two types of sick people. There's a sick person who is terminally ill, with the meaning of he has no hope to be cured from his sickness and he can't fast. And there's a sick person who is not terminally ill. He expects to recover. Like you got ill and then you just thought, I'm sick for now. Inshallah, I'll be good after some days, for example. So this is the one who has to make it up. The one who was sick while he expects to be cured eventually. He's the one who's going to have to make it up. وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ فِدْيَةٌ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ. And on those who are able to do it is a redemption, feeding a poor person. The judgment in the first days of the nation of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the choice between fasting and feeding the poor. Then this rule was abrogated. Now whoever is able to fast has no other choice if he does not have an excuse. He has to fast. So they used to be allowed to fast or pay a fidya. And that's the meaning of the ayah here. So if a person just reads the ayah and he has no knowledge, then he might take the wrong meaning out of there. He doesn't know anything about abrogation. Because it just says, for a few counted days, but whoever among you were ill or on a journey, then he shall make up the missed number of days on other days. And on those who are able to do so is a redemption, feeding a poor person. Meaning, if you don't want to fast, don't fast and then feed a poor person instead. That's abrogated though. فَمَنْ تَطَوَّعَ خَيْرًا فَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَهُ. So whoever volunteers doing something good by adding to the redemption more than what is obligatory, then that is better for him. وَأَن تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. And for you to fast is better for you than feeding the poor. إِن كُنتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. If you only knew.
Does it say where, in commentary, where the abrogation came?
It's not here, but maybe if we look in some of the Tafsirs, especially the bigger ones that have more details. And also probably in the hadith books we'll find that in there. In the Kitab al-Siyam, it'll probably have some mentioning of those things. And also here it says in the beginning of Islam, this was the rule, that they could fast or they could pay a fidya. But what does that mean in the beginning of Islam? Because they were in Medina. They were already in Medina here. They weren't obligated to fast Ramadan until they went to Medina. So all that still counted as the beginning of Islam. And one might think that when we say in the beginning just means the first days in Mecca. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. The month of Ramadan is that in which was revealed the Quran. So then this is evidence that the meaning of إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ فِي لَيْلَةِ الْقَدْرِ. Indeed, we revealed it on Laylatul Qadr. So that's evidence that Laylatul Qadr is in Ramadan. When you put those two ayahs together. That's from Surah Al-Qadr, and this is Surah Al-Baqarah. And also there's another ayah. Some people claim that Laylatul Qadr is in Sha'ban, before Ramadan. So yeah, that's a mistake on their part. هُدًى لِلنَّاسِ وَبَيِّنَاتٍ مِّنَ الْهُدَى وَالْفُرْقَانِ. The month of Ramadan is that in which was revealed the Quran as guidance for the people and as clear verses of guidance, and the Furqan, wal-Furqan, and the Furqan. So there's something about the sentence structure there that's not clear for me. So I have a question there. But the Furqan is the Quran itself. The Furqan is what differentiates between truth and falsehood. And in some ayahs, Allah told us also that the Torah is Al-Furqan, or was. فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. So whoever of you witnessed the new moon for the month, then let him fast the duration of the month. So if you take the words literally here, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ. So any of you who witnessed the month, فَلْيَصُمْ, then let him fast it. So here, there is a convention in the Arabic language here. It's called Subhanallah. Now I can't remember the name of it. But what it is you have a pronoun, which is here. فَلْيَصُمْهُ فَلْيَصُمْهُ. Let him fast it. That pronoun there. What's it? It is the month, meaning the days of the month. That's what you're going to fast, the days of the month. But when it says before that, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ, any of you who witness the month. What's the month here? What's meant by the month here? It's not the days that you're going to fast. It's the moon. That's what you witness. So the meaning is, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ. Any of you who witnessed the month means any of you who witnessed the crescent that proves that the month is in. فَلْيَصُمْ. Then let him fast the days of the month. So But if you just translate the words literally, it would say, any of you who witness the month, then let him fast it. So the month means the crescent, and it means the days of the month. وَمَنْ كَانَ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِّنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرَ. And whoever among you are sick or on a journey, then he shall make up the missed number of days on other days. يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرَ وَلَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْعُسْرَ. Allah accepts convenience for you, and therefore grants facility to the sick and to the traveler. And he does not accept for you the difficulty. وَلِتُكْمِلُوا الْعِدَّةَ. And he accepts that you should complete the number of missed days. وَلِتُكَبِّرُوا اللَّهَ عَلَى مَا هَدَاكُمْ. And that you exalt the greatness of Allah upon completing the fast, for his guiding you to the rites of his religion. That's in reference to Eid. When you make takbirs, the takbirat. وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. And so that you may appreciate what has been sanctioned. And so that you may appreciate what Allah has done for you. That's the case of the believers. Allah obligated them to fast, and then they fast, and then they thank Allah for obligating them to do that and enabling them to do that. وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ. And when my slaves ask you about me, then surely I am qareeb. So we didn't want to translate it directly as close or near. So we just put qareeb. But that's what qareeb literally means, close or near. أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ. I answer the call of the supplicant when he calls me. So the meaning of qareeb is the one who knows everything and the one who answers the supplications. فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ. So let them respond to me by obedience and constantly believe in me so that they may be guided. It was revealed as an abrogation of the unlawfulness of sexual intercourse and of eating and drinking after the night prayer that was during the earliest phase of Islam, meaning it was revealed first that after they prayed Isha that they couldn't eat or drink or be with their wives. Then that was abrogated. So here's the abrogation of that. أُحِلَّ لَكُمْ لَيْلَةَ الصِّيَامِ الرَّفَثُ إِلَى نِسَائِكُمْ. Legalized for you on the night of the fast is copulating with your women. هُنَّ لِبَاسٌ لَكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ لِبَاسٌ لَهُنَّ. They are a garment for you from what is forbidden, and you are a garment for them. عَلِمَ اللَّهُ أَنَّكُمْ كُنْتُمْ تَخْتَانُونَ أَنفُسَكُمْ. Allah knew that you were betraying yourselves when it was obligatory to refrain after Isha prayer. فَتَابَ عَلَيْكُمْ. So he forgave you. وَعَفَى عَنْكُمْ. And he pardoned you. فَالْآنَ بَاشِرُوهُنْ. Now that it is permitted, engage them by sexual intercourse. وَابْتَغُوا مَا كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ. And seek what Allah has ordained for you of children. You can make that intention, the intention to make children. وَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَكُمُ الْخَيْطُ الْأَبْيَضُ مِنَ الْخَيْطِ الْأَسْوَدِ مِنَ الْفَجْرِ. And eat and drink until the white thread of the day becomes distinct for you from the black thread of the night at dawn. ثُمَّ أَتِمُّوا الصِّيَامَ إِلَى اللَّيْلِ. Then complete the fast till the night. You start fasting from Fajr time. until Maghrib. And this is evidence then that you don't fast at night. The fast is for daytime. Night does not accept fasting. وَلَا تُبَاشِرُوهُنَّ وَأَنْتُمْ عَاكِفُونَ فِي الْمَسَاجِدِ. And do not engage them while you observe i'tikaf in the masjids. تِلْكَ حُدُودُ اللَّهِ فَلَا تَقْرَبُوهَا. Those are the limits set by Allah, so do not approach them. كَذَلِكَ يُبَيِّنُ اللَّهُ آيَاتِهِ كَذَلِكَ يُبَيِّنُ اللَّهُ آيَاتِهِ لِلنَّاسِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَّقُونَ. Like he clarified what was mentioned for you, thus does Allah clarify his laws for the people, so that they may beware of the sins, so that they may avoid the sins. Nah. وَلَا تَأْكُلُوا أَمْوَالَكُمْ بَيْنَكُمْ بِالْبَاطِلِ. And do not consume each other's properties among yourselves fraudulently. وَتُدِلُوا بِهَا إِلَى الْحُكَّامِ. Nor present the case to the judges. لِتَأْكُلُوا فَرِيقًا مِّنْ أَمْوَالِ النَّاسِ بِالْإِثْمِ. Nor present the cases to the judges so that you may consume part of the people's properties sinfully. وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. While you know your fraudulence. Or it means do not offer bribes to the judges. يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْأَهِلَّةِ. They ask you, Muhammad, about the new moons. Why do they seem very thin? Then they wax until they are full of light, and then they wane again until they are as they were at first. Why are they not always the same like the sun? قُلْ هِيَ مَوَاقِيتُ لِلنَّاسِ وَالْحَجِّ. Say, they are for the people to keep track of time, and for the Hajj. This is for the people's farming, trading, debts, fasting, and breaking their fasts, and the women's iddah, and their menstrual periods, and the duration of their pregnancies, and other matters. Had they always looked the same, or had the moon always looked the same, then none of these things could be known. We wouldn't be able to track time if the moon wasn't going through phases. وَلَيْسَ الْبِرُّ بِأَن تَأْتُوا الْبُيُوتَ مِنْ ظُهُورِهَا. And since some people would refuse to enter a house or a garden from the doorway while they were in a state of ihram, Allah revealed that it is not righteousness that you enter the houses from their rears. That's something that they had from the era of ignorance, that they would get into the state of ihram in their claim, because they were still doing what they called Hajj, that they learned from Abraham, but they perverted it. So they were still getting into the state of ihram in their claim, and then part of their perversion was that they believed that once they were in the state of ihram, they couldn't go in the front door. So they used to come out the back door, come in the back door, or they would put a hole in their house. Or if they lived, if their tent was like made of hair, they would just go through like that. وَلَكِنَّ الْبِرَّ مَنِ اتَّقَى. Rather, righteousness is the good deed of whoever avoids committing what Allah forbade. وَأْتُوا الْبُيُوتَ مِنْ أَبْوَابِهَا. And enter the houses from their doors. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ. And fear Allah so that you may be successful. After the Prophet ﷺ and his companions were stopped at Hudaybiyah from making Umrah, he made a treaty with the disbelievers that year, amongst which included that he would not be allowed to perform the Umrah that year, but he would be allowed to return the following year. Having prepared to depart for the make-up Umrah, meaning the next year, he and the believers were concerned that Quraysh would not keep the agreement and instead would instigate fighting, and being the kuffar they are. The Muslims were averse to becoming entangled in battle while in a state of pilgrimage, and while in the sacred territory, and during the sacred months. And so the following was revealed. وَقَاتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ الَّذِينَ يُقَاتِلُونَكُمْ, and fight in the way of Allah those who start to fight you. وَلَا تَعْتَدُوا, and do not transgress by starting, or by fighting whom you were prohibited to fight, or by mutilation. Who are they prohibited to fight? Like the women and children. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُعْتَدِينَ. Surely Allah does not accept those who transgress beyond the limit. It was said that this 190th verse that limits how they can fight is abrogated by the 36th verse of Surah At-Tawbah. وَقَاتِلُوا الْمُشْرِكِينَ كَافَّةً. Fight the pagans altogether. And it was said that it was abrogated by this 191st verse. وَقُتُلُوهُمْ حَيْثُ ثَقِفْتُمُوهُمْ, and slay them wherever you overrun them. وَأَخْرِجُوهُمْ مِنْ حَيْثُ أَخْرَجُوكُمْ, and when you conquer Mecca, drive them out from where they drove you out. وَالْفِتْنَةُ أَشَدُّ مِنَ الْقَتْلِ, and the tribulation of their paganism is more severe than killing in the sacred territory while in the state of ihram. Yani their kufr is worse than fighting in the state of ihram and fighting in the haram. وَلَا تُقَاتِلُوهُمْ عِنْدَ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ حَتَّى يُقَاتِلُوكُمْ فِيهِ, and do not fight them in the haram, in the vicinity of the sacred masjid, until they fight you there, yani unless they start. فَإِن قَاتَلُوكُمْ فَقُتُلُوهُمْ, then if they fight you, slay them. كَذَلِكَ جَزَاءُ الْكَافِرِينَ, such expulsion and slaying is the recompense of the unbelievers. And it's important to note that these are guidelines for warfare, and this is not everyday practice of normal religion. Just kill them wherever you find them, because that's what the kafir would say when he wants to discredit Islam. He will pull out an ayah and say, look at this ayah, slay them wherever you find them, for example. So we will say to him, this is about warfare. Don't you have armies, and don't you have soldiers, and don't your soldiers say, we're killers? That's our job. What did the drill sergeant tell them? I'm going to make you into a killer. That's their job. That's their profession. فَإِنِ انْتَهَوْا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. فَإِنِ انْتَهَوْا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Then if they desist their blasphemy and the fighting, then surely Allah is forgiving of their prior transgression and merciful by accepting their repentance. The meaning is, here, they embraced Islam. وَقَاتِلُوهُمْ حَتَّى لَا تَكُونَ فِتْنَةً, and fight them until there is no tribulation of paganism or any kufr. وَيَكُونَ الدِّينُ لِلَّهِ, and until religion and worship is only for Allah. So that's evidence that Islam is the only correct religion. فَإِنِ انْتَهَوْا فَلَا عُدْوَانَ إِلَّا عَلَى الظَّالِمِينَ. Then if they cease the blasphemy, then they have stopped their injustice, and there should be no hostility against them. There is no hostility but against the unjust. الشهر الحرام بالشهر الحرام. The current revered month of Dhul Qa'dah for the previous revered month of Dhul Qa'dah. Meaning, in year 7, when the Muslims were able to complete the Umrah, while the pagans hated that. For the previous one, in year 6, when they made the Muslims turn back. وَالْحُرُمَاتُ قِصَاص, and the revered things whose sanctity has been violated are avenged. فَمَنِ اعْتَدَى عَلَيْكُمْ فَاعْتَدُوا عَلَيْهِ بِمِثْلِ مَا اعْتَدَى عَلَيْكُمْ. So whoever transgresses against you by fighting in the sacred territory, or during the state of ihram, or in the sacred months, transgress against him with similar to what he transgressed against you. But the one who starts is the true transgressor. He's the antagonizer, meaning the unjust one. The one who responds is not a transgressor truly, because he is not unjust. He is within his legal bounds to react. Rather, since he responds with a similar action, his action was named with the name of the action of the antagonizer. So that's the meaning of, if they transgress against you, transgress against them, though your reaction is not a true transgression. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ, and fear Allah when retaliating. وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَ الْمُتَّقِينَ, and know that Allah supports those who have God-fearingness. وَأَنفِقُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, and spend in the way of Allah. وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ, and do not throw yourselves into destruction by not spending in the way of Allah, or by overspending and leaving oneself poor and needy. وَأَحْسِنُوا, and do favors by spending and otherwise. Do favors in other ways too. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ, surely Allah accepts the muhsins, the favor doers. So muhsin also is one of those words that you could have a generic translation for it, the good doers. But the tafsir, the exact tafsir, is going to be directed to the context of whatever is being mentioned in the ayah. So here the muhsinun are the favor doers, those who do favors for others. The muhsinun in another ayah might mean something else. That's just like we were saying about the taqwa. It might mean those who fear Allah, but it might mean those who avoid sins, or it might mean those who avoid other things. Excuse me. And likewise, the ayat in the Quran. So ayat could mean the verses of the Quran, could mean the miracles performed by prophets, or could mean something else. So there are some words that reappear in the Quran in different spots. Someone might assume that every time they see it, it means the same thing, and it wouldn't be the case.
So when he mentions here, he said, do not throw yourselves into destruction by not spending for the sake of Allah. Now, is that saying, can one take from this, I don't want to say it's obligatory, but can one take from this the importance or the priority for, of course, spending fi sabilillah versus, I guess, like staying in your own bubble? Like something that, what comes out to me from this ayah is like, you got some people who just, I'm doing what I need to do for me and my family and so forth, and then that's it. Right? And then from here, I'm taking the next step and I'm taking this out of like terms of like jihad and what they had going on as they was establishing then, but putting it in today's terms, you could have one person who just take care of himself and his family, that's all he do. And then you have people who give towards the Islam, or to the community that's trying to drive Islam forward. So this is saying that do not throw yourself into destruction by not giving sadaqah or not giving towards.
Yes, and I think I understand where your question is going. It is obligatory on the wealthy ones to spend for the da'wah. Those who are wealthy, they need to be mindful about that. That they don't say, for example, all right, I support my wife, I support my children, I paid my debts, I paid my zakat, I made my hajj, I'm done. All the rest of this money is for me. It's not the case. He would be sometimes, if there's a need for the da'wah, which there is today, then he would be obligated to contribute some of his money. He'd be obligated. He'll be sinful. Sheikh Abdullah said that those people who are wealthy, they need to be mindful, not even to do optional umrah or optional hajj when the da'wah needs that money. So the Muslims, they need schools, they need all sorts of things, especially at this time. Yani, this time, Muslims are ignorant to a critical condition. It's not like in those old days. So that is an issue. A person needs to be mindful about it.
That's important.
Yeah. A person would buy luxury cars or all kinds of things, or just remodel his house or something like that. And that money could have gone to the religion. And he wouldn't have been harmed in any way. No. وَأَتِمُّ الْحَجَّ وَالْعُمْرَةَ لِلَّهِ, and complete the Hajj and the Umrah for the sake of Allah. Here, according to Ash-Shafi'i, this is evidence that Umrah is obligatory, because it says complete the Hajj and the Umrah for the sake of Allah. The other Imams, they said this is not evidence that Umrah is obligatory in itself. The Hajj, yes, there's a consensus that Hajj is obligatory. Others, they said this is merely evidence that if you start the Umrah, you have to finish it. It's not. They said it's not evidence though that you have to start it. You don't have to start it. It's Sunnah. فَإِنْ أُحْصِرْتُمْ فَمَا اسْتَيْسَرَ مِنَ الْهَدِيِ. If you are detained, then to exit the state of ihram, obligatory on you, is whatever is easy of the sacrificial offering. Meaning, when the person gets into the state of ihram, he can't just get out of it. He can't just choose to not be in the state of ihram anymore. It's not like if a person were fasting and then in the middle of the day he eats and breaks his fast, and that's haram, but his fast is broken. Or if he's praying his obligatory prayer and he just interrupts his obligatory prayer before the salam for no reason, that's haram, but his prayer is broken. He's out of his prayer. The ihram is not like that. When the person makes ihram for hajj or umrah, yani for the nusuk, he's not going to get out of it unless he does what gets him out of it. The ihram for nusuk, the ihram for nusuk has tahallul, which is what unravels it, gets you back into the state of being halal. So how are you going to get out of the state of ihram? By doing certain things like making tawaf with sa'i and throwing the stones and shaving your hair. Then you're going to be halal again. But what if you got detained and you couldn't make it? You made your ihram before you got to the haram. So now you're in the state of ihram, and then someone stopped you before you could get there. So how are you going to get out of the state of ihram? Because you're not going to get out of it. Then you have to do something. So then what you have to do is shave and slaughter your sacrifice. Shave and slaughter your sacrifice, that's how you're going to get out of the state of ihram when you're detained. Or else you're going to stay like that. وَأَتِمُّ الْحَجَّ وَالْعُمْرَةَ لِلَّهِ فَإِنْ أُحْصِرْتُمْ فَمَا اسْتَيْسَرَ مِنَ الْهَدِيِ. If you are detained, then to exit the state of ihram, obligatory on you, is whatever is easy of the sacrificial offering. The camel, cattle, camel, cow, sheep, or goat. Change that from cattle to cow. Cow. Saying cattle with the meaning of cow, that's American. But cattle more originally means livestock.
وَلَا تَحْلِقُوا رُؤُوسَكُمْ حَتَّى يَبْلُغَ الْهَدِيُّ مَحِلَّهُ.
And do not shave your heads to exit ihram until the offering reaches its destination. So there's details behind that I'm not prepared to go into. But that's the two things you need to do to get out of ihram if you are detained. You have to shave and slaughter your sacrifice.
فمن كان منكم مريضا أو به أذى من رأسه ففدية من صيام أو صدقة أو نسك.
Then whoever among you was ill or had an ailment in his head, like he had lice, like that's what came in the hadith of a man, he had severe lice. Then obligatory on him, if he shaves before the midnight of the Eid, is an expiation. Yani. So, you have for Hajj, muharramat, things that are forbidden to do while you're in a state of ihram. And among those things is removing your hair until the time comes in. So Allah is telling us here, if you're a person who has a problem though, like you have lice, so you need to remove your hair before the time comes in, then you can do so, but you'll have to pay an expiation. Or you were sick. So whoever among you was ill or had an ailment in his head, then obligatory on him, if he shaves before the midnight of the Eid, is an expiation. Fidyah min siyamin aw sadaqatin aw nusuk. Whether fasting or charity or sacrificing. All of that's in the chapter of Hajj. The chapter of Hajj is a very interesting fiqh chapter. For me, is just another indication that this religion is by revelation. Because the chapter of Hajj is very intricate and has pieces. It's like you have to learn, has pieces, and then you put those pieces together, and it all makes sense. For me, I can't see how anybody could make this up, and it makes sense. Right. There's no contradiction in there. I can't see how any human could just, off the top of his head, just start saying things. Yeah, you gotta shave your head, and then at this time do that, and like this and like this.
Right. It's all coming. There's no way.
Yeah. No.
فإذا أمنتم فمن تمتع بالعمرة إلى الحج فما استيسر من الهدي.
Then, when you are safe, then whoever enjoys the prohibitions of ihram by completing the umrah until making ihram for the upcoming hajj, then on him is whatever is easy of the sacrificial offering. Meaning, you have three options. You can make hajj and umrah simultaneously, or you can do one before the other. So hajj before umrah or umrah before hajj. So this is talking about the one who makes umrah before he makes hajj. So he got into a state of ihram for umrah, and then, so now he has muharramat, things that are haram for him to do. But he completes his umrah without making hajj, and now he can, again, enjoy those things that were haram. So then he has to sacrifice. In other words, the one who makes umrah before hajj has to slaughter a sacrifice.
فإذا أمنتم فمن تمتع بالعمرة إلى الحج فما استيسر من الهدي.
Then when you are safe, then whoever enjoys the prohibitions of ihram by completing the umrah until making ihram for the upcoming hajj, then on him is whatever is easy of the sacrificial offering.
فمن لم يجد فصيام 3 أيام في الحج و7 إذا رجعتم.
Whoever does not find any offering, or he can't afford it, then obligatory on him, if it were the 6th or 7th of Dhul Hijjah, is fasting for 3 days until the Hajj. Is fasting for 3 days during the Hajj, and 7 when you have returned. After that, one fasts after the Hajj according to known rules. One fasts after the Hajj according to known. Oh, okay. After that, meaning if it's not the 6th or 7th of Dhul Hijjah, then you're going to complete your Hajj and then fast after that, according to known rules. So right here where it says,
فصيام ثلاثة أيام في الحج.
Then obligatory on him, if it were the 6th or 7th of Dhul Hijjah, is fasting for 3 days during the Hajj, not after the Hajj. Yani during these days. And then 7 more days afterwards when he goes back home. 10 days total. But you can't fast all 10 together. So you're going to fast these 3 and then do your Hajj and then go home and then fast the rest. But what if you're not, what if you miss the 6th or 7th of Dhul Hijjah? Then, because you're not going to fast on the 10th, that's the Eid. The 10th is the Eid. And then 3 days after that are the days of Tashriq. So you can't fast then either. So how are you going to fast 3 days during Hajj when the Eid and the 3 days of Tashriq are there? The only way you'd be able to do that is if it were 6th, 7th, and 8th, or 7th, 8th, and 9th. And then you have those days you can't fast. You're going to complete your Hajj then. Then you're going to go home and then finish your fasting. So, but what if you had to do this after those days? Like, you didn't get those 3 days. Then there's known rules for that. Then you're going to, after you finish your Hajj, fast for 3 days, and then put some space between the next 7 days, and then fast 7 more days, but not 10 in a row. According to known rules that one would take when he learns the chapter of Hajj.
تلك عشرة كاملة.
Those are a complete 10.
ذلك لمن لم يكن أهله حاضر المسجد الحرام.
That is for whoever his family was not present in the vicinity of the sacred masjid. Within the area of the miqats. The miqat is what you're going to make ihram before you pass the miqat.
واتقوا الله.
And fear Allah concerning his orders and prohibitions in Hajj and otherwise.
واعلموا أن الله شديد العقاب.
And know that Allah is severe in punishment for those who disobey. That's as much as I have prepared for today. MashaAllah.